Hello everybody, my name's Llama Joe and welcome back to my channel with the letter. So we're just still dealing with Rebecca, and this has been going on for a long time, but I think we're either halfway or beyond halfway. I think we're beyond halfway at this point. Oh yeah. Not by much, but by a little bit. So we're getting there. Still got a while to go. Oh gosh. It's gonna be a journey. Don't know if I read this or not. It's been about 5 days since I've last recorded, so I remember what happened, but I can't remember if this specific task. And after I'm pretty sure I skipped some text last time, I'm not going to take that risk again, so. A favor for me and the least he could do for her. This is as much as I can do for him as well until I've understood what's happening myself. Oh god, my accent's gotten even worse today. I'll have to get back in the swing of things. I apologize. I'll read this little article here. Isabella and Ashton arrive at Solomwell Heaven. Oh, yeah, okay, so we already read that. Tonight, hopefully, where this all started, will provide the answers I'm looking for. Gosh, why, man, why can I do, my accent has gotten even worse. I'll just read normal, and then as I start to, pick up back into the accent, then I'll start trying again. Until then, I'm doing really bad, so. Except the whole thing's off to a bad start, and all of a sudden, whatever Isabella claims, dwelling in this mansion becomes the least of my concerns. Of all the cabbies in Luxburn, I have to chance upon the superstitious one. Still not as bad as finding out your car starter refuses to crank on, when it's still working this morning, yes. But it's equally as frustrating when you're forced to walk the rest of the way. All because the driver got spooked. Isabella and him will get along so well. I do get his reasons, after all. I've had my fair taste of the bazaar lately. All of which might have been brought upon that letter Isabella found here. But you'd think he'd at least be charitable enough to take me a little closer to the house itself, not at a distance 15 minutes away from it by foot. Good thing I'm not wearing anything too formal or constricting. Otherwise, that short walk would have likely put me in a bad mood, long before I have to suffer in a room full of strangers tonight. Although, this soon proves to be a problem the second the driveway comes into view and I near the entrance. Severely underdressed is a total understatement to describe how I look. Cars, with more than my own apartment and childhood home combined, line the mansion's front yard. Men and women decked out in their best also flock near the entrance. Most are eager for the festivities to start, while some are simply idling about, enjoying the warm afternoon sun before it sets. But once the woman standing at the front porch speaks, their undivided attention immediately shifts to her. Presumably Mrs. Wright, from the confident manner she holds herself among present company. This, despite keeping a far simpler appearance than the rest of her home guests, or not having a husband beside her. A trait worthy of utmost admiration at best. At worst, she's the envy of every woman, the subject of every gossip in Luxburn.
Welcome everyone.
And Mum said we could have been good friends? I can't even picture myself mingling with the kind of guest she has. Though I admit she does seem familiar, now that I've seen her this close. Memories of sitting in vanity, not mine, being dressed in clothes too fancy for my tastes. They flit briefly in my mind until a cheerful tone rises above the buzz of her enraptured audience again.
Please, make yourselves at home.
I wish I could share her enthusiasm, really. But being surrounded by all this extravagance, for the lack of a better term, merely makes me dread how the rest of the night might go. I shouldn't have let Luke's words affect me like that. I should have just gone ahead and asked Ashton like I've planned. If he were here, then I won't have to...
Be careful with Shirley, alright?
Uh-oh. The rest of that thought dies in my mind at once. A moment of astonishment overcomes me before confusion sets in seconds later. It takes another for my body to catch up. Once it does, when I finally turn to see it for myself, it's his familiar mop of hair that catches my eyes first. And there he is, almost at arm's reach if it isn't for the guest standing between us. Ashton Frey, standing in the Ermengarde Mansion's driveway, with an air too I've never seen that word before. Lackadaisical for someone who absolutely abhors parties of any form, or has any business here as far as I know. The picture it forms is too bizarre for me that my mouth speaks out ahead of any coherent thought.
Ashton?
He swivels on his heel with an equally puzzled face. An odd expression flashes momentarily across it once he sees me, though he blinks it away before I can figure out what it is exactly.
Becca, what are you doing here?
I was invited.
Really? I had no idea you were friends with the host.
Well, it's my parents, actually. But that's beside the point. What are you doing here? You hate parties.
I still do. I'm just here on behalf of a friend.
That in itself is weird, coming from him. It doesn't help that he isn't making any effort to spare a glance my way when he answers. Instead, they focused at some point in the crowd, his gaze darting between people walking past us until a small frown forms in his face.
That's rare. Do you have someone with you then?
Nope, just me. I won't be staying long.
Oh, well, if that's the case, maybe you and I can...
Chief?
Ashton, what's...
Unexpectedly, he places a hand on my shoulder, stopping me mid-sentence. He still has a distracted look on him, except this time his eyes are sharper, as if he has found what or who he's been searching for among the throng of partygoers earlier.
Sorry, Becca. I need to... There's something I need to check for a bit. I'll talk to you later. Do you have a ride home?
No, I had to take a cab here. My car wouldn't start this afternoon. But what about...
I told you to get that old thing checked before, didn't I? You can head back with me after this. Anyway, I gotta go. See ya. Be careful, okay?
I meet the smile he hastily throws my way with a frown of my own. What does he mean by that? But before I can ask, already he has turned his back from me and is walking away without a single explanation whatsoever. In some desperate effort, I try to catch up to him, if only to know what warranted this sudden departure and his odd warning at the end.
Hey, be careful! About what
Only for my attempts to be interrupted by a muffled ringing from my pocket. Mum's cheerful voice greets me as soon as I answer.
Yes, I'm at the party already, Mom. Yes, I'll say hi to her if I can.
The conversation itself doesn't last long. Just a simple hello, a reminder to enjoy the party, and to send their regards to the old student. But when the call ends and I get to look up, Ashton's already nowhere in sight. With a sigh and admittedly a little disappointment, I tuck my mobile back into my pocket and head inside. Even with familiar company, however coincidental this meeting is, this is somehow shaping up to a terrible evening. The party hits full swing an hour later. With the host opening remarks given, still no sign of her husband, the poor woman, and the guests promptly fed, the band shifts the melody to a livelier tune. Soon, laughter and the rhythmic tapping of shoes fill the room, all in accordance to the lifting strains of music. It seems fun, I admit. Fascinating at certain moments, the flurry of dancers making the music their own, almost with no care in the world. If I weren't so indisposed, I'd have joined the crowd for a song or two. There isn't a lack of invitations anyway, plenty of them in fact, with some asking more than once. It's only my stubborn refusal that prevents me from joining them. And I can. A single nod is all that it'll take, and the evening would have been far enjoyable for me. But pride and my own silly hopes, the thought of being seen with one of them by him, curbs that, as much as I hate to admit it. Because doing so also means outright acknowledging the douche's claims. That he has the one to tell me that still sends my blood boiling. I would have preferred someone more agreeable, less of an arse. It's a hard truth to swallow, especially when the very person at the center of it makes denial difficult. Can't even spare me a minute of his attention or a single glance at me the whole evening. Hell, Zachary might have spoken more words to me. The big guy's busy covering an event to boot. But at least he manages to slip in a conversation due between takes or a small wave of his hand when he passes by. What's Ashton's excuse? He's been flitting in and out of sight the whole time. One moment he's hanging around a small group, in another he's hovering around the string band. Just a second ago he was wolfing down some deviled eggs by the buffet table, a glass of wine in his hand. The next thing I know, he's gone. If I didn't know any better, I'd say he doesn't want to be with any of his friends. Is it because his boss is here? What's the big deal about that? It has never bothered him before.
I swear, the next person who asks, I'm dancing the night away with. Ashton can go fuck himself.
You would catch his eye a lot better if you wore nicer clothes, don't you think?
Her voice almost makes me jump, too focused on the gobshite wandering around the ballroom and my own annoyance to notice. If she's heard any of the profanities I've mumbled, or she's taken notice of my discomfiture, she makes no comment on it, merely greeting me with a smile when I turn my attention to her. Miss Hannah Wright gives off a whole different air when she's not speaking to an audience. Homely, a bit too friendly for my liking. But I guess that comes from being raised in such an environment and having to deal with pompous, snooty people. Though I suppose nothing has really changed from years ago. I remember her carrying herself in the same manner during that one and only visit. Does she remember any of it? I won't be surprised if she doesn't. It has taken me a while myself. She's probably met a lot of people like little Becky throughout the years. Might have already forgotten about me and my parents. People like her thrive on connections after all. Nevertheless, I return a smile, awkward and stiff as it may be.
Didn't realize the housewarming was going to be this fancy. I would have gone with a nice dress if I knew.
Oh, you're fine, dearie. It's only really the parvenu, those who climb, that come to these parties all dolled up. Quite the black-haired beauty, isn't he?
It takes me a while to realize who she's talking about. Until Ashton walks by again in closer proximity than any of the times he has done so far this evening. Still, without a look of acknowledgement, I'll wait though, even if Miss Wright speaks loud enough to catch the attention of anyone within earshot.
Who, Ash?
You know, you really shouldn't have turned down those offers. If I wasn't married, I'd happily go dancing with those young men. But you said a name. Ash. That's the exquisite lad you've been looking at all this time. I don't know him, and I'm the one hosting this party. That must mean you know each other. Is he your boyfriend then? Because that would explain those rejections.
Red face. This isn't the first time someone has made that assumption. Almost every student I've had in the past did. My co-workers, more often than not, assume he is. A few of my neighbors also think we're an item. Not that Ashton has ever reacted to those. He's been quite indifferent about it, in fact. Still, the heat of a blush creeps up my cheeks, a denial ready despite wanting it to happen so badly myself.
What? No, that's ridiculous. He isn't my boyfriend.
Such a violent reaction. A simple no would have sufficed. None here would be happy to hear it.
And I haven't been looking at him.
I do my best to summon a straight face, but before her good cheer it easily falters.
That's right. You've been staring. Quite heatedly, in fact. Although I'm not sure if you look like you want to kiss him or kill him.
It's more the latter currently.
Just don't go murdering him on my property. I don't want to walk into a room and suddenly find a body there.
It's infectious in a way. No sooner I find myself enjoying our chat more than I've imagined myself to. Although her attention briefly wavers at one point, she remains a good companion. Even more once I've mentioned who my parents are, her face quickly lights up and fondness graces her, despite the meeting from several years ago being a short one. But of course, there are some things we really can't avoid talking about. After all, it's one of the few things I remember her asking me the moment she spotted little Becky in the room. Do you have a boyfriend? In retrospect, it's an odd thing to talk about as children, when there are loads we could have started with.
Yes, oh, I remember you. You were the cutest little thing with glasses. And when we met, you were having boy troubles with this lad called something with an A.
I believe I still have the clothes she gave me. Chosen all so I could impress him. And even back then, Ashton has always been denser than a rock, and that one attempt to get him to notice backfired spectacularly. Sure, he's keen, he's a detective for heaven's sake, but failings more often than not escapes him.
What was it again? Aaron, Alan, Adele, Albert, Alexander, Andrew?
Which makes this whole talk all the more embarrassing. And the more names she lists off, the more my discomfort grows until my smile turns into a grimace. What will she think of me? Here she is, married, to a man she most probably loves at that. While I'm still stuck in the same place, yearning for the same person.
Ashton! Ash! That man is that boy! The same one. Oh, goodness me, after all these years! I can see why, though. He's quite dashing.
You don't really need to announce it to everyone within earshot, you know? Keep it down.
I'm so sorry, but it really is cute.
She says that, but for a short moment a hint of pity flickers in her eyes. I take that as a chance to change the subject before anything more can be said over the matter. I haven't even figured out how I should feel about the things Luke told me. Now I'm getting dragged into a similar discussion.
So, this is a nice party, Miss Wright.
Though, to be frank, I doubt she'll be so willing to pass this up. Woo! Sorry. Big The topic has already captured her attention.
Please, Anna's fine. We're friends of a sort, aren't we? We must be friends, seeing as I know about your little infatuation, Becky. Don't you worry, dearie. You'll have your happy ending yet.
I'm not too concerned about that, am I? That's not what I'm looking for.
Oh? And what makes you think that? Doesn't everybody want their happy ending?
The idea of happy endings sounds like they're just for fairy tales. And they are, sorta. I don't think you can just sit around, trapped in some tower and hope for the best. If you love them, you have to fight for it, right? You're not just going to sit there and hope that everything will just fix itself on its own. Like everything, you have to work at it.
Hypocrisy, that's what this is. How dare I preach about something when it's exactly what I've been doing? And then, I go and act as if I'm entitled to any of it. That, by virtue of us growing up together, he must return whatever I feel for him. That he's not allowed to look at another because I'm the one who has stayed by his side the longest. When, in the first place, Ashton has always been his own person. This is something I cannot force on him. I can only hold on to these, take care of it until the time comes I can confess it to him. Great if he reciprocates, but if he can't? If he won't? Selfish. I've been too selfish. How laughable that Luke's words still strike true up until now.
But what do I know?
I'm sure the daughter of the two greatest professors I've ever known is smart enough to know what she's talking about.
At one point, maybe I would have easily agreed to that. However, the past weeks has also seen changes in the way I view things. As nice as these things sound, it turns out whatever I previously know may not even be true for other people or for myself. It is sobering and almost funny how things I might have said with much certainty before now has doubts muddying each of them. We're gonna end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like my terrible accent today, even worse than it normally is. And I'll do the best I can to make it right. I'm Llama Joe, and I'll catch you guys later.